Joining us now is the attorney for Breonna Taylor's family, Ben Crump. Mr. Crump, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
And we know that this verdict, it is far from the murder charges Breonna's mother, Tamika, had called for. What was her reaction, and how is Breonna's family doing this morning?
Yeah, outraged and offended because, like me and my co-counsels, they want to know, did Attorney General Daniel Cameron even present any evidence for Breonna Taylor in that grand jury proceeding? And if so, what was it? Because how do they come up with a result like this? He talked about transparency. Well, show us what you presented to the grand jury, because obviously Breonna Taylor did not have a voice in that proceeding.
According to the Attorney General, no charges were filed against the two officers who shot Breonna because the investigation found that the officers didn't shoot first and that they were justified in returning fire after Taylor's boyfriend fired at them. So what is your response to that?
Everybody has said Breonna did not have a gun. Breonna did not pose a threat to the police. So for you now to say, because her boyfriend, Kenny Walker, who has a right to the Second Amendment, if you believe every citizen has rights, and that includes black people, then she had every right to be in her apartment living and breathing and not be shot and killed by the police just because they executed an illegal, unconstitutional no-knock warrant based on a lie. Because we can't forget that Daniel Cameron never presented the context of why the police were at her apartment in the first place. It was based on a lie.
One officer was charged, but not for endangering Breonna, but for endangering her neighbors. So does that surprise you?
It underscores what I believe, Michael, and what I continue to argue, whether it's Jacob Blake, George Floyd, or any of these cases. There seems to be two justice systems in America, one for white America and one for black America. And anybody out there, not just black people, but anybody who has a daughter, anybody who has children, this grand jury proceeding is a grave injustice.
The FBI is getting involved now. It is possible they could still be charged, right?
It is very possible they still could be charged. The FBI is investigating. Also, we're encouraging that wanton endangerment charges should be levied because bullets went into Breonna Taylor's apartment. Doesn't her life matter? So we think they should be increased there. And also for the black neighbors. And that's why people are marching and protesting, because they feel like Daniel Cameron did not represent Breonna Taylor's life in that grand jury proceeding. He never mentioned her name in the indictment.
And speaking of protests did break out overnight, some peaceful, some not. Two officers were even shot. So what is your message for those who are angry and who are out in the streets?
Even though it's righteous anger and Breonna Taylor family is outraged, her mother continues to encourage peaceful protests. She said Breonna Taylor would not have condoned any violence whatsoever. And so let's respect the legacy of Breonna Taylor. Now more than ever, we all need to respect the legacy of Breonna Taylor, because obviously it wasn't respected in that grand jury proceeding.
Mr. Ben Crump, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate your time, and please send our best to Breonna's family. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
And of course, so many questions, George, how they came to this conclusion. So Kentucky's governor and Louisville's mayor asking for the attorney general to release the information that the grand jury had to make their decision.
Yeah, we'll see if that comes out soon. We hope the violence stays down in the meantime.
Absolutely.